The Enchanting Tale of Thumbelina, an epic journey of love, courage, and self-discovery. In a world where magic slumbers just beneath the surface of everyday life, there lived a woman named Adeline. Her heart ached with an unfulfilled desire that grew stronger with each passing season. For years, she had longed to cradle a child of her own, but fate had yet to grant her wish. As you listen to this tale, dear viewer, perhaps you'll find echoes of your own longings and unfulfilled dreams. What wishes do you hold close to your heart, waiting patiently for them to blossom? One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves danced on the breeze, Adeline decided to seek the counsel of Madame Alara, a mysterious fairy known for her arcane wisdom and powerful magic. With trembling hands, she knocked on the door of the fairy's cottage, hidden deep within the whispering woods. "Enter, child," came a melodious voice from within. Adeline stepped into a room filled with shimmering crystals, bubbling potions, and shelves lined with ancient tomes. At the center stood Madame Alara, her silver hair cascading down her back like a moonlit waterfall. "I know why you've come," the fairy said, her eyes twinkling with kindness. "Your heart's desire is written plainly on your face." Adeline nodded, unable to find her voice in the presence of such ethereal beauty. Madame Alara smiled gently and reached into a small pouch hanging from her waist. "Fear not, for your wish can be granted. But remember, dear Adeline, magic always comes with a price. Are you willing to pay it?" How often in life do we find ourselves at crossroads, dear viewer? Moments where the fulfillment of our deepest desires seems within reach, if only we're brave enough to grasp it. What prices have you paid for your dreams? Adeline's heart raced. What price could be too high for the joy of motherhood? "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Whatever the cost, I'll pay it." The fairy's expression grew serious. "Very well. Take this enchanted seed," she said, presenting Adeline with what appeared to be an ordinary barley corn. "Plant it in a flower pot filled with the richest soil you can find, and water it with your tears of longing. Then watch closely and see what miracles unfold." As Adeline reached for the seed, Madame Alara caught her hand. "But heed this warning, the child born of this magic will face great trials. Her journey will not be an easy one. You must prepare her for a world that may not understand her uniqueness." Adeline clutched the seed to her chest, determination shining in her eyes. "I understand. I will love and protect this child with all that I am." The fairy's laughter tinkled like wind chimes in a summer breeze. "Then go, and let destiny take its course. But remember, Adeline, you too have a part to play in this tale. The love you give will shape the future in ways you cannot yet imagine." With renewed hope blossoming in her chest, Adeline hurried home. She selected her finest flower pot, a delicate porcelain piece adorned with hand-painted butterflies and wildflowers. Into it, she poured the richest, darkest soil from her garden, the kind that promised abundant life to anything planted within. With reverence, she placed the barley corn in the center of the pot and gently covered it with a thin layer of earth. Then, closing her eyes, Adeline allowed herself to feel the full weight of her longing. Tears spilled from her lashes, each droplet imbued with years of hope and heartache as they nourished the magical seed. For days, Adeline tended to the flower pot with unwavering devotion. She sang lullabies to it, read stories aloud, and even placed it by her bedside at night, as if already caring for the child she so desperately wanted. On the seventh day, just as the first rays of dawn painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, Adeline awoke to a sight that took her breath away. There, in the center of the flower pot, stood the most exquisite flower she had ever beheld. Its petals were softer than silk, shimmering with an iridescent glow that seemed to pulse with life. As Adeline leaned closer, marveling at the flower's beauty, something extraordinary happened. The petals began to unfurl, revealing a tiny figure nestled within. It was a diminutive maiden, no larger than the size of Adeline's thumb, with skin as fair as moonlight and hair the color of honey. The little creature yawned and stretched, blinking up at Adeline with eyes that sparkled like dewdrops in the morning sun. A cry of joy and wonder escaped Adeline's lips as she realized her impossible dream had come true. "Hello, little one," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "I'm your mother." The tiny maiden smiled, and in that moment Adeline's heart swelled with a love so profound it threatened to overwhelm her. She knew, without a doubt, that she would cherish and protect this miraculous child for all her days. "Thumbelina," Adeline murmured, the name coming to her as naturally as breathing. "My sweet Thumbelina." And so began the extraordinary life of Thumbelina, a child no bigger than a thumb, but with a heart as vast as the sky. Little did Adeline know that this was just the beginning of a tale that would span kingdoms, challenge the very laws of nature, and redefine the meaning of true love. As you drift towards sleep, dear viewer, consider the miracles in your own life. What unexpected joys have blossomed from the seeds of your hopes and dreams? As Thumbelina grew, so did her curiosity about the world around her. Adeline's cottage became a wonderland of discovery where everyday objects transformed into grand adventures for the tiny maiden. A simple teacup became a vast lake for swimming, while a bookshelf offered endless mountains to climb. Adeline watched her daughter's explorations with a mixture of joy and trepidation. She knew that Thumbelina's size made her vulnerable, but she also saw a fierce determination in her daughter that both thrilled and terrified her. One day, as Thumbelina perched on the windowsill, gazing out at the garden beyond, she turned to her mother with wide, pleading eyes. "Mother," she said, her voice as delicate as a whisper, "when can I go outside? I want to see the world beyond our home." Adeline's heart clenched with fear, remembering Madame Alera's warning. But she also knew she couldn't keep Thumbelina sheltered forever. "Soon, my love," she promised. "But first, you must learn to protect yourself." And so began Thumbelina's training. Adeline taught her daughter the secret language of flowers, how to call upon the aid of friendly insects, and the ancient arts of fairy magic that Madame Alera had passed down to her. Thumbelina proved to be an eager and gifted student, absorbing knowledge like a sponge. As the seasons changed, Thumbelina's powers grew. She learned to weave cloaks of invisibility from spider silk, to command the wind to carry her aloft, and to speak with animals of all kinds. But with each new skill she mastered, her longing to explore the world beyond their garden grew stronger. On the eve of Thumbelina's 16th birthday, Adeline knew it was time to let her daughter spread her wings. With tears in her eyes, she presented Thumbelina with a gift, a tiny locket made from an acorn cap, polished until it shone like gold. "My darling," Adeline said, fastening the locket around Thumbelina's neck, "this locket contains a powerful magic. Whenever you're in danger, open it, and it will guide you to safety. But remember, its power can only be used 3 times, so choose wisely." Thumbelina hugged her mother tightly, overwhelmed with gratitude and excitement. "Thank you, Mother," she whispered. "I promise to make you proud." As dawn broke on Thumbelina's birthday, she set out into the garden, her heart pounding with excitement. The world seemed so vast, so full of possibilities. She flitted from flower to flower, marveling at the intricate patterns on butterfly wings and the iridescent shine of dewdrops. But her joyous exploration was short-lived. As she paused to rest on a lily pad in the garden pond, a sinister shadow fell over her. Before she could react, she found herself snatched up by a large, warty toad. "What a pretty little morsel," the toad croaked, her bulbous eyes gleaming with greed. "You'll make a perfect wife for my son." Thumbelina's heart raced with fear. "No," she cried, her tiny voice barely audible over the gentle lapping of the water. "I won't marry your son. I don't even know him, and I'm not a toad. I'm a human." But the old toad paid no heed to her protests. She swam swiftly to a secluded part of the pond where water lilies grew in abundance. There, she deposited Thumbelina onto a broad lily pad. "Stay here, little bride," the toad commanded. "I'll fetch my son and prepare for the wedding. Don't even think about escaping. There's nowhere for you to go." As the toad disappeared beneath the water's surface, Thumbelina's mind raced. She thought of her mother, probably sick with worry by now, and of the locket hanging around her neck. Should she use its magic now? But what if she faced even greater dangers ahead? Just as she was about to open the locket, she heard a gentle voice. "Pest. Little one, are you in trouble?" Thumbelina looked up to see a beautiful blue butterfly hovering nearby. Hope surged in her heart. "Oh, yes," she cried. "Please, can you help me?" The butterfly nodded, its antennae twitching sympathetically. "I can carry you away from here, but we must hurry before the toads return." Without hesitation, Thumbelina climbed onto the butterfly's back. As they took to the air, she felt a rush of exhilaration. She was free. But where would this new adventure take her? As they flew over fields and forests, Thumbelina marveled at the world spread out beneath them. The butterfly, whose name was Azul, told her of distant lands and magical realms that existed beyond the reach of ordinary humans. "There is a place," Azul said as they paused to rest on a sunflower, "where beings of your size live in harmony with nature. It's called the Meadow of the Flower Fairies. Perhaps there you might find a home and friends of your own kind." Thumbelina's eyes widened with wonder. A place where she wouldn't be considered strange or different. It seemed too good to be true. "Can you take me there?" she asked eagerly. Azul's wings shimmered in the sunlight. "I can show you the way, but the journey is long and perilous." "Are you sure you're ready for such an adventure?" Thumbelina thought of her mother and the safety of their home. But she also thought of the vast world waiting to be explored and of the chance to find others like herself. Drawing a deep breath, she nodded. "I'm ready." Dear viewer, as you listen to Thumbelina's tale, reflect on your own moments of decision. When have you stood at the threshold of the unknown, torn between the comfort of the familiar and the allure of adventure? How did those choices shape your journey? And so began Thumbelina's epic journey to the Meadow of the Flower Fairies. Along the way, she faced countless challenges that tested her courage and wit. She outsmarted a hungry fox by using her knowledge of plant lore to create a potion that put him to sleep. She befriended a lonely field mouse, helping him find his long-lost family in exchange for shelter during a fierce storm. And when confronted by a flock of angry crows, she used her ability to speak with animals to negotiate a truce. But her greatest challenge came when she encountered Prince Cornelius, the fairy prince of the nearby kingdom. Cornelius was immediately smitten by Thumbelina's beauty and bravery, and he offered to escort her safely to the Meadow of the Flower Fairies. As they traveled together, Thumbelina found herself drawn to the charming prince. His kindness and courage reminded her of the stories her mother used to tell her about true love. But she also felt conflicted. Was she ready to give her heart to someone she had just met? Their budding romance was cut short when they were ambushed by the Fairy Queen's guards. It turned out that Cornelius had fled his kingdom to escape an arranged marriage, and now his parents were determined to bring him back. In the chaos of the ambush, Thumbelina and Cornelius were separated. As she watched the fairy guards drag the prince away, Thumbelina faced a difficult choice. Should she continue her journey to the Meadow of the Flower Fairies, where she might find acceptance and belonging? Or should she risk everything to save Cornelius? In that moment, Thumbelina remembered her mother's words, "The love you give will shape the future in ways you cannot yet imagine." With a deep breath, she made her decision. Using the second wish from her magical locket, Thumbelina summoned a flock of friendly sparrows to carry her to the fairy kingdom. As she approached the glittering palace, she realized that this was more than a rescue mission. It was a chance to bridge two worlds and create understanding between the fairies and the other small creatures of the forest. With courage in her heart and magic at her fingertips, Thumbelina prepared to face the fairy queen and fight for not just Cornelius, but for the freedom of all beings to choose their own path in life. As you ponder Thumbelina's choice, dear viewer, consider the moments in your own life when love has called you to be brave. How has the courage to follow your heart shaped your world? As Thumbelina approached the fairy queen's throne room, she felt a mix of fear and determination coursing through her veins. The palace guards, astonished by her tiny size and the aura of magic that surrounded her, made no move to stop her. The fairy queen, a regal figure with wings that shimmered like opals, looked down at Thumbelina with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. "What manner of creature are you," she demanded, "to dare enter my court uninvited?" Thumbelina stood tall, her voice clear and unwavering. "I am Thumbelina, daughter of Adeline, born of flower and magic. I come to speak on behalf of Prince Cornelius and all those who wish to choose their own destiny." A murmur ran through the assembled fairies. The queen's eyes narrowed. "You presume much, little one. What could you possibly offer that would make me reconsider my son's betrothal?" With a deep breath, Thumbelina began to speak. She told of her own journey, of the kindness she had encountered among the creatures of the forest, and of the magic that connected all living things. She spoke of love that transcended boundaries and of the strength that comes from embracing diversity. As she spoke, a strange thing began to happen. The flowers adorning the throne room began to bloom more vibrantly, their petals unfurling as if awakening from a long slumber. The air filled with a sweet fragrance, and a soft, golden light seemed to emanate from Thumbelina herself. The fairy queen, her expression softening, leaned forward on her throne. "You possess a magic unlike any I have seen," she said softly. Perhaps we have been too hasty in our judgments." At that moment, Prince Cornelius burst into the throne room, having escaped his guards. He rushed to Thumbelina's side, taking her tiny hand in his. "Mother," he said, looking up at the queen, "Thumbelina has shown me that true strength lies not in adhering to tradition, but in having the courage to forge new paths. I ask for your blessing, not just for us, but for a new era of understanding between all the creatures of our realm." The queen was silent for a long moment, her gaze moving between her son, Thumbelina, and the vibrantly blooming flowers. Finally, she nodded. "Very well," she said. "Let it be so. From this day forward, our kingdom shall be open to all who come in peace, regardless of their size or origin." A cheer went up from the assembled fairies, and Thumbelina felt her heart soar with joy. She had done it. She had changed the course of an entire kingdom. But even as she celebrated this victory, Thumbelina felt a tug in her heart. She thought of her mother waiting anxiously back home, and of the meadow of the flower fairies, a place she had yet to see. Her journey, it seemed, was not yet over. Cornelius, sensing her conflicted emotions, squeezed her hand gently. "What troubles you, my love?" he asked. Thumbelina looked up at him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I've found so much here," she said softly, "but there's still so much I haven't seen. My mother, she must be so worried. And the meadow of the flower fairies. I feel as though my destiny is somehow tied to that place." Dear viewer, as you listen to Thumbelina's inner conflict, reflect on the times in your own life when you felt torn between different paths. How do we balance our responsibilities to others with the call of our own destiny? The fairy queen, overhearing their conversation, stepped down from her throne. Her expression was one of understanding and newfound wisdom. "My dear," she said to Thumbelina, You have taught us all a valuable lesson about the power of following one's heart. It would be wrong of us to keep you from continuing your journey." Cornelius nodded, though Thumbelina could see the pain in his eyes. "You must go," he said. "Find the answers you seek. Know that you will always have a home here, should you choose to return." Thumbelina's heart swelled with gratitude and love. She stood on her tiptoes and placed a gentle kiss on Cornelius's cheek. "Thank you," she whispered. "I will return, I promise." With a wave of her hand, the fairy queen summoned a magnificent butterfly, its wings shimmering with all the colors of the rainbow. "This is Iris," the queen said. "She will guide you safely to the meadow of the flower fairies." As Thumbelina prepared to leave, the queen pressed a small, glowing seed into her hand. "A gift," she explained. "Plant this in the meadow, and it will grow into a portal connecting our two realms. May it serve as a bridge between our worlds, just as you have been." With tearful goodbyes and promises to return, Thumbelina set off on the next leg of her journey. As she soared through the sky on Iris's back, she marveled at how far she had come from the tiny flower where she was born. She had faced dangers, made friends in unexpected places, and even changed the heart of a queen. What other wonders awaited her? As they neared the meadow of the flower fairies, Thumbelina gasped in awe. Below them stretched a vast expanse of flowers, each one large enough to serve as a house for someone of her size. Glowing orbs of light, which she realized were actually tiny, luminescent beings, flitted between the blooms. Iris descended towards a particularly beautiful rose, its petals a soft pink that seemed to glow from within. As they neared, Thumbelina saw that the flower's center had been hollowed out and furnished like a cozy sitting room. Sitting in one of the leaf chairs was a diminutive woman, no taller than Thumbelina herself. She wore a gown that seemed to be made from rose petals, and atop her flowing silver hair sat a delicate crown of dewdrops. As Thumbelina approached, the woman looked up, her face breaking into a warm smile. "Welcome, Thumbelina," she said, her voice as melodious as a spring breeze. "I am Queen Rosebud, sovereign of the flower fairies. We've been expecting you." Thumbelina's eyes widened in surprise. "Expecting me, Your Majesty?" she asked, her voice filled with awe and curiosity. Queen Rosebud chuckled softly, the sound like the tinkling of tiny bells. "Yes, my dear. The wind and the flowers have whispered your tale to us. We know of your brave journey and the trials you have faced. The moment you entered our realm, the meadow itself recognized you as one of its own." As Queen Rosebud spoke these words, Thumbelina felt a warmth spread through her chest, a sense of belonging that she had longed for since leaving her mother's garden. Tears of joy welled up in her eyes as she realized that she had finally found a place where she truly fit in. Dear viewer, pause for a moment and consider, have you ever experienced a moment of profound belonging? A place or a group of people that made you feel truly at home? How did it change you? But even as she reveled in this feeling of homecoming, Thumbelina knew that her journey was not yet complete. She still had to find a way to reunite with her mother and to bridge the worlds she had come to love. With determination in her heart, Thumbelina shared her story with Queen Rosebud and the other flower fairies. She told them of her birth from a magical seed, of her adventures with the animals of the forest, and of her experiences in the fairy kingdom. She spoke of Prince Cornelius and the promise of unity between their realms. As she finished her tale, Thumbelina presented the glowing seed given to her by the fairy queen. "This seed," she explained, "is meant to grow into a portal between our worlds. But I believe it can do even more. With your permission, Your Majesty, I would like to plant it here in the meadow, but imbue it with magic from all the realms I have visited." Queen Rosebud's eyes sparkled with interest. "An ambitious plan, young Thumbelina. And how do you propose to gather this magic?" Thumbelina stood tall, her voice ringing with confidence. "I will embark on one final journey, Your Majesty. I will revisit each place that has shaped my path, gathering a token of magic from each. When combined with this seed, it will create not just a portal, but a nexus of understanding and cooperation between all the small creatures of the world." The flower fairies murmured in excitement at this idea. Queen Rosebud nodded approvingly. "A noble quest indeed. Very well, Thumbelina. You have our blessing and our support." And so, Thumbelina set out once more, this time with a clear purpose in her heart. She returned to the pond where she had first been kidnapped by the toad, and there she reconciled with the toad's son, who had since learned the error of his mother's ways. From him, she received a magical water lily that never wilted. She visited the field mouse who had sheltered her during the storm, and from his family, she received a golden kernel of corn imbued with the warmth of hearth and home. In the fairy kingdom, she reunited briefly with Prince Cornelius, who gifted her with a vial of fairy dust that sparkled with the power of flight and transformation. Their parting was bittersweet, filled with unspoken promises and the hope of a future together. Finally, Thumbelina returned to her mother's garden. The reunion between mother and daughter was tearful and joyous, filled with embraces and promises of eternal love. Adeline, seeing the wisdom and strength her daughter had gained, knew it was time to let her follow her own path. "My darling Thumbelina," Adeline said, cupping her daughter's tiny face in her hands, "you have grown so much, not in size, but in spirit. I am so proud of the person you've become." From her mother, Thumbelina received the most powerful magic of all, a lock of Adeline's hair, imbued with a mother's unconditional love. With all the magical tokens gathered, Thumbelina returned to the meadow of the flower fairies. There, in a grand ceremony attended by representatives from all the realms she had visited, Thumbelina planted the glowing seed. As she placed each magical token around the seed, she spoke of the lessons she had learned on her journey, of courage, of kindness, of the strength found in diversity, and of the power of love to transcend all boundaries. The seed began to glow brighter and brighter, pulsing with an inner light that seemed to match the beating of Thumbelina's heart. Suddenly, a brilliant beam of light shot up from the ground, splitting into multiple streams that arched across the sky like a rainbow bridge. Where each stream of light touched the ground, a shimmering portal appeared. Through one, Thumbelina could see her mother's garden. Through another, the fairy kingdom. Each portal connected to a different realm, creating a network of pathways between all the worlds Thumbelina had touched on her journey. As the light faded, a magnificent tree stood where the seed had been planted, its leaves shimmering with an otherworldly glow. At its base, nestled among the roots, was a tiny cottage, a perfect home for Thumbelina. Queen Rosebud approached Thumbelina, her eyes shining with pride and admiration. "You have done more than we could have ever dreamed, Thumbelina. Thanks to you, all the small creatures of the world now have a way to connect, to understand each other, and to share in the magic that binds us all." Thumbelina looked around at the faces of all those she had met on her journey, her mother, Prince Cornelius, the animals of the forest, and the flower fairies. Her heart swelled with love and a sense of accomplishment. "This is only the beginning," Thumbelina said, her voice ringing with promise. "Together, we will write a new chapter in the history of our realms. A chapter of unity, of understanding, and of love that knows no boundaries." And so, Thumbelina's great adventure came to an end, but in many ways, it was just the beginning. She had found her place in the world, not confined to one realm, but as a bridge between many. She had learned that true magic lies not in size or power, but in the connections we forge and the love we share. As for you, dear viewer, as you drift off to sleep, remember this: no matter how small you may feel, you have within you the power to change the world. Like Thumbelina, your journey may take you to unexpected places and introduce you to extraordinary characters. Embrace each experience, for you never know which step will lead you to your true destiny. And who knows? Perhaps one day, if you listen closely to the whisper of the wind or the rustle of flower petals, you might hear echoes of Thumbelina's song carried across the realms on the wings of magic and love. The end, or perhaps just the beginning of a new adventure. As you close your eyes and let sleep embrace you, take a moment to reflect on your own journey. What magical seeds of possibility lie dormant in your life, waiting to be nurtured? What bridges can you build between the different realms of your existence? And most importantly, how can you let the love in your heart guide you to your true purpose? Sweet dreams, dear viewer, and may your own adventures be as enchanting as Thumbelina's.